Message skipped. Next message.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, Christmas!
End of message.
So right now I'm living in a small town in Southern California called Ventura. Big shout out to everybody out there that knows about this place. And I'm going to be moving to New York City to pursue my dream of becoming a writer. And if that sounds kind of vague and uncertain, it kind of is because it is at this point. I really don't have anything set up out there exactly yet. I don't have an apartment, and I don't have a job out there. I do have an internship with a small startup microbrewery, which is right off of Long Island, but it's unpaid, and hopefully I can maybe parlay that into something, but we'll see. So it's going to be an adventure. I only know one person out there, and she's going to be letting me stay at her place while she vacations out here in California. So I have about a week's time to find an apartment. So starting Monday, week time, that's it. I'm going to hit the ground running. So I'll be keeping everybody updated via these little video blogs, and could be interesting. Guess we'll see what happens. So it's August 4th, 2012, and I can't believe it, but it's 3 years after I took that initial video, actually a little bit more than 3 years, and I am back here in Ventura. So I wanted to go over a little bit of what happened in between my adventure in New York and what's going on next. So I did go out to New York. I had to scramble and find a place. I found a place up in Harlem on 127th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard. And that's right around the corner from Sylvia's famous soul food place, if anybody knows about that. I had a roommate who was an amazing jazz pianist and a 20-something kind of hipster guy trying to figure out what to do next, into music a little bit, into writing. So yeah, I basically fit in pretty well with that. And I did do that internship at the beer company. It was cool, but I just basically wrote blogs and I never got to go into an office or anything. So that was interesting, but I wanted a little bit more after a while, so I left that internship. And I got an internship at a travel magazine, and I did some of their blogs and learned about SEO, search engine optimization, everybody's talking about, and that was really good. I got a lot of clips from them, and that was a good internship. Then I had a not so good internship, which was working on the marketing arm of an indie movie company, and there I was more of kind of like a gopher, and I just typed up some stuff and went and got coffee and things like that, and they didn't teach me anything. I wasn't really able to do anything, and that's unfortunately how a lot of the internships work in New York. I think that a lot of these companies basically need to hire secretaries or little helpers, and they don't want to pay for it. And so they just kind of post it as an internship. In fact, I'd hear people at bars and stuff like that, executives or managers, kind of laughing about it, how they're kind of taking advantage of people this way. So, I mean, Occupy Wall Street, you know, seriously. And, you know, all these people come to New York like I did with stars in their eyes and get caught up on that. And, you know, it's just something to be aware of. So I did both those internships for a while, and I was running out of money because I wasn't getting paid for any of this. And this was about 6 months in. And I'd be at different libraries typing up my short stories and little writing things on my off time. And I happened to be at a library near Columbia where this girl who was doing research on geriatrics was always at. She was always at my table, and we got to talking, and she said, you know, I'm part of this research study that's interviewing elderly people all across New York, and we need some more interviewers. And I said, hey, right here, does it pay? And she said, yes, it does. So, you know, it didn't pay a lot, but it paid enough for me to stay out there. And I ended up doing hundreds and hundreds of interviews with elderly folks all across New York about elder to elder mistreatment. Now, usually people conceptualize, you know, elderly people being mistreated by their caretakers. So this was a sort of different type of mistreatment that I hadn't even thought of. And it unfortunately occurs sometimes when certain personalities or people with different medication schedules or all sorts of things happen that are put together in the same place. And the research study was trying to figure out ways of either not putting those people together, recognizing certain behavior patterns when certain mistreatment might happen, and a whole variety of different things that caretakers can watch out for and management can watch out for in terms of putting people together and medication schedules. So that was really good stuff, and I worked on that for a year and a half, and like I said, did hundreds of interviews. And so during that whole thing, I also moved apartments from Harlem up into Washington Heights, Hamilton Heights area, 159th and Broadway. I would not recommend living there. A lot of drugs and people kind of being not so nice to each other. And you know what it is basically is there's a lot of really amazing, hardworking, working class people there, and a lot of people that are out of work, unfortunately. And it's just like kind of a stew for problems when there's all these people that are out of work, and it's really unfortunate, especially with the economy. And unfortunately, you know, the police didn't seem to be as interested in helping some people when they could have out there. Like, I'd see people, you know, spousal abuse, I'd call it in, and the police officers were a block away. They didn't do anything. It was a largely Dominican neighborhood, and I hate to say it, but I think that the police response would have been a little bit better and maybe a neighborhood of a different shade. So unfortunately, sometimes I think that is where that is, and you know, in general, the NYPD did good stuff, but like I was really disappointed in how they handled or are currently handling that area up there. So after a while, I left that area and I moved to Queens in Astoria, and I got an actor roommate, so I got kind of a perspective of how it is for actors trying to make it in New York, and it's just as hard. It's ridiculously hard, and we should all, you know, praise all these people that give us so much enjoyment on TV and on stage, because they bust their asses trying to get there and, you know, providing all this entertainment and enjoyment for people. It's just really tough for those guys. So, well, going back to my job at the nursing homes, while I was there, I kind of realized, like, oh, you know, I am really interested in helping people and maybe doing something a little bit more. You know, how can I get involved in research, or do I want to be a social worker? I looked into what the social workers were doing there, and they do amazing things, but it's just not exactly something that fits my personality and that I want to do. And then I looked into public health, and I considered that, and I thought, well, maybe I want to get into that. So that was in the back of my mind. But in the meantime, I got a job offer from a legal publication and to do some writing and research, and I was thrilled. I was like, yes, finally I get a writing job. I'm going to leave this job and do this. And it paid a lot less, but they said, well, you know, we're going to take you on for 3 months. After 3 months, if it works out, you're on probation, we'll hire you. You get benefits, pay raise, all this. 3 months came, asked them what's going on. Do you like my work, guys? And they said, we love your work, but you know what? We're going to let go of a lot of people in our company, and we're going to keep you as a contractor forever, and we're never going to give you benefits, and we're going to keep you at this super low pay rate. And I said, oh my God, no. And I said, how long have you known that you were going to make these cuts and everything? They said, oh, since we hired you. So I was done with them because they lied to me. And then I was out of work for about 6 months. So in the meantime, I used that time to study for my GRE. I applied to grad school the last week of November, 1 week before I could, you know, the deadlines were due. So I just scrambled, got some amazing letters of rec from the researchers over at the elderly home place, and also from a professor in the law school I had attended. And then I ended up having to come back home to Ventura, and luckily my family here was very supportive, very nice. And ironically enough, while I was out here, within 3 weeks I got a job working as a writer for a small web company, writing courses for them and copying, outreach. And it's ironic that I went all the way across the U.S. to get a writing job and ended up with it in my hometown. So life is crazy. So in the meantime, I got all of my acceptances or rejections back from these schools, and I got into a bunch of amazing schools I never thought I would get into. I got into Ohio State, UCLA, Johns Hopkins, Columbia, Emory, University of Michigan. So I've decided to go to graduate school for public health, and I'm trying to bring together health communications and doing good things for people. And there's a new branch of kind of public health that's been there for a while, I guess, but health informatics, and that's basically figuring out how we can get good information to people through different technology sources, or to doctors, like how they can retrieve files on patients and things like that. It encompasses everything from like file retrieval to developing mobile apps for people with diabetes to track their insulin and things like that, and blogs and all of that stuff. So I'm totally thrilled. I go to Michigan on the 16th of August. I don't have a place there. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's a similar situation. I feel like it's like the New York thing repeating itself in a slightly different iteration, and it's going to be an adventure. So that's how everything turned out with my New York adventure, and moving on to Ann Arbor in Michigan. And like the Rolling Stones said, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. And I would add to that, I guess sometimes what you need turns out to be what you want. So that's it. That's it for NYC Me TV, and signing off for new adventures.
Message skipped. Next message.
No matter how your eyes is bleeding, if you keep on believing, the dreams that you wish will come true.